let's talk a little bit about Donald Trump. Donald Trump was interviewed by Sean Hannity, and some really interesting exchanges took place with regard to Planned Parenthood. Now, defunding Planned Parenthood at the federal level has become a really popular talking point among Republicans. Let me remind you that there is already a provision in place which prevents federal funds from being used on abortion services. So even though 3% of what Planned Parenthood does is abortion services, the funding that Planned Parenthood gets has to go towards the 97% of stuff that they do that is not abortion services. And that includes a number of different things, any number of other things, which Donald Trump is aware of. And when he was asked by Sean Hannity about Planned Parenthood, I have to tell you, Donald Trump was only partially completely unhinged and unreasonable. He actually made a few good points. Let's take a listen.
Let me ask you, you talk about Planned Parenthood. Another example, talk about a war on women. Look at the number of abortions they perform every year. $500 million taxpayer money goes to them. You said you would have shut down the government to defund them. You also talked about some of the good things that they do.
They do good things.
Should the taxpayers pay?
Defund having to do with the abortion.
Should taxpayers give, with the debt we have, 128 trillion in unfunded liabilities, should we even give them a penny?
Okay, so look, let's say there's two Planned Parenthoods in a way. You have it as an abortion clinic. Now, that's actually a fairly small part of what they do, but it's a brutal part, and I'm totally against it, and I wouldn't do that. They also, however, service women. And one of the things that I thought was so terrible when Jeb Bush the other day talked, as we said, when he talked about women's health issues, he was so bad. I mean, it's like, what is he doing? We have to help women. A lot of women are helped, so we have to look at the positives also for Planned Parenthood. You know, even a guy like you may be convinced it does some positive things. I would look at it very strongly. We have to help women. As far as the abortion stuff, absolutely.
But if they are doing abortions, then they can allocate their other resources to other things. The government, right. Why should the taxpayers pay for an organization that...
Maybe unless they stop with the abortions, we don't do the funding for the stuff that we want. There are many ways you can do that, Sean, because I'm totally against the abortion aspect of Planned Parenthood. But
Planned Parenthood should not be this controversial. And Donald Trump is right about certain things he said here. Abortion is a very small part of what Planned Parenthood does. And most of what Planned Parenthood does is working on contraception, STI treatment, screenings for healthy women. And if you go as a woman to Planned Parenthood, you are not having a subsidized abortion because of the funding that Planned Parenthood gets. So Donald Trump is spot on there. Now, Trump is wrong about other things he said, like, for example, saying, implying that abortions aren't a service to women. Abortions are a service to women. Donald Trump is wrong about that. But we need to remember that even Donald Trump is saying most of what Planned Parenthood does is not abortion. He is now claiming that he's very, very anti-choice and he's against abortion and that abortion is a brutal procedure that should not even be legal. But putting that aside for a second, even Trump is being somewhat reasonable about an organization that really is not a controversial organization.
Yeah, but the Republicans have done such a great job of painting it in such a bad light. And so I think the most important message for Planned Parenthood should be to let the American people know that they do more than just abortions, right?
And let's contextualize the conversation around Planned Parenthood as well, because Republicans claim to be the party of freedom, but our nation has gone so far off the deep end with regard to what conversations are considered legitimate that Republican candidates openly discuss, number one, how to limit voting rights through voter ID, voter suppression, etc. Number two, how to limit women's rights. And number three, how to further oppress poor people, right? They're not even obligated to hide these discussions. Donald Trump and the other Republican candidates are free to go out there and talk about how can we pull money away from women's and family planning organizations, and it's considered a sort of legitimate debate. Yes, many people are on the opposite side of Donald Trump on the debate, but it qualifies as legitimate debate in this country.
Yeah, it does. It's unfortunate. But, you know, it's nice to see that Donald Trump is at least somewhat level-headed when it comes to certain issues. You know, of course, not that I'd be voting for him in any way.
Not that he's going to win either. I think that's abundantly clear. Send me your thoughts about this. I'm on Twitter at @dpakman, and producer Lewis is on Twitter at Lewis Motamedi.